So in this video we're going to look at sports drinks. So hopefully by the end of this short video you'll understand what sports drinks are, what they're made up of, and hopefully you'll have your own ideas then on whether sports drinks are a good thing to be consuming or not. Straight away I just want to highlight the difference between sports drinks and energy drinks. So we're not talking about energy drinks here. So energy drinks are things like cans of Red Bull or Monster. In today's video we're looking at sports drinks such as Lucozade Sport, Energize Sport and Powerade, the examples we have here on the right hand side. These drinks are commonly referred to as isotonic drinks. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to understand what isotonic means. So if a drink was referred to as hypotonic, that means that it has a lower concentration than blood. So an example of a hypotonic drink would be water. If a drink is referred to as being isotonic, that means it has the same concentration as blood. So the examples such as Lucozade Sport and Powerade that we have here on the right hand side. If a drink is considered hypertonic, well then it has a higher concentration than blood. So an example of a drink that's hypertonic would be Red Bull. What this simply means is our blood has 6 to 8% carbohydrates. So for a drink to be considered isotonic, well then it should have between 6 to 8% carbohydrates as well. So here we have on our left our nutritional information for Lucozade Sport. So we can see here that it's 6.5 grams of carbohydrates per 100 ml. So that basically works out it's obviously 6.5% carbohydrates, which falls between the 6 to 8% carbohydrates we have in our blood, which makes the drink isotonic. What this means is an isotonic drink, because it has the same concentration as our blood, it can enter into our bloodstream quicker. So an isotonic drink will enter into our bloodstream quicker than a hypotonic drink or a hypertonic drink. For a drink to be considered a sports drink, it must have between 6 to 8% carbohydrates. So how do these sports drinks work? So we know when we're exercising, our heart rate increases, and this results in an increase in body temperature and we begin to sweat. So you might have noticed before that when you sweat, it tastes really salty. And that's because it is salty. And it's salty because of things called electrolytes. So when we begin to exercise and we begin to sweat, we're not only losing water, we're also losing electrolytes. Electrolytes are quite important in the body because they regulate muscle function and they also help hydrate the body. Also, when we're exercising, we know that we use glycogen. And glycogen comes from carbohydrates. So basically when we're exercising, we're losing three things: water, we're losing carbohydrates in the form of glucose, and we're also losing electrolytes. So what sports drinks and isotonic drinks do is they replace these three things. So isotonic drinks are mainly made up of water, carbohydrates, and salt, which is basically where we get our electrolytes from. The main two sources of electrolytes in the body is from salt and sodium. So we've lots of athletes in Ireland sponsored by sports drinks, especially Lucozade Sport. So here's an example of one of these advertisements where we have Irish athletes supporting the use of sports drinks such as Lucozade Sport.
Whether we are training for ourselves or our team, we push ourselves hard to improve, to be the best we can be. Even with moderate intensity exercise, we can lose up to 1 litre of sweat in just an hour. As we sweat, our bodies lose water and electrolytes. In order to push through, we must refuel and rehydrate. Lucozade Sport contains the electrolytes and carbohydrates you need to unlock your potential. Lucozade Sport, made to move.
So they've explained the benefits of drinking Lucozade Sport, but one of the first things they've mentioned is they've focused in on moderate intensity exercise, and they've mentioned how much you lose during moderate intensity exercise. So the key question I have after watching this advertisement is drinking isotonic drinks such as Lucozade Sport beneficial for people training at moderate intensity? So the arguments for isotonic drinks are quite simple. They help replace what's been lost when the body is exercising, and this can help delay fatigue. So when you drink an isotonic drink, it not only hydrates the body, it also replaces the electrolytes that have been lost when exercising. And these electrolytes are really important to how the body functions. They also help replace the carbohydrates that have been used to create the energy to exercise. So the main arguments against isotonic drinks are based around the high sugar content and the high salt content. So obviously with such a high sugar content, if somebody's drinking isotonic drinks on a regular basis, well then this could lead to obesity. Also, the large amounts of salt could lead to things like high blood pressure or heart disease. Other issues would be diabetes and tooth decay. The real issue here is if somebody is drinking isotonic drinks on a regular basis and are not training at an elite level. So with an elite athlete who's training constantly, if they're drinking isotonic drinks, well then they're using that energy that's being created from the sugar that they're drinking. They're also using up the electrolytes that are being replaced by the isotonic drinks. But if somebody is drinking all of these extra electrolytes in the form of salt and drinking all of these extra carbohydrates in the form of sugar, well then this will lead to problems if they're not being burnt off. So what do the experts say? So the first thing they recommend is that you reach for the water first. For the majority of people and for the majority of exercises, water is an effective way of rehydrating. However, the longer the event, the more acceptable the use of sports drinks. So if you're exercising for longer than 60 minutes, well then they believe that sports drinks are an effective way of replacing the carbohydrates and the electrolytes that you've lost through exercising. I guess the really important thing is that people are educated. So if you're a person who's going to the gym and you're exercising and your goal is to try and lose weight, it's important that you haven't seen these ads and you haven't seen these professional rugby players and professional boxers recommending that you use Lucozade Sport. And if you're only training at a moderate level and then you're drinking a sports drink thinking that that's going to help you to lose weight, well then all you're doing is you're putting back in the calories that you've just burned off through the sugar that's in that isotonic drink. So what do you think about sports drinks? So if you're a high-level elite athlete like Anthony Joshua that's training at high intensity on a daily basis, well then Lucozade Sport can be a very effective tool for you. So it can help you to rehydrate and to replace the nutrients that you've lost while exercising. However, for the majority of people, in most cases, sports drinks can only add harmful amounts of sugar and sodium to your diet. So what you need to be able to do is you need to be able to explain how sports drinks work, and you need to be able to argue for and against their use in sport. So you need to understand the pros and cons and also who sports drinks are suitable for.